Good evening. Good evening. I hear clapping. Welcome to the Freight. This is a hype place. I'm only here for a little while, so I just want to make sure I get my remarks in, then we're going to bring out the real superstars. This is a remarkable and historic venue that attracts excellent music, artistic expression, and impactful voices. And tonight, the Richard and Rhoda Goldman School of Public Policy is pleased to join these ranks with a conversation among two of the most thoughtful, provocative, and intellectual figures of our time. Tonight, we present Coming Up Short, a conversation with Robert Reich and Michael Lewis. Fun. My name is David Wilson. I'm Dean of the Goldman School of Public Policy and a professor of public policy and political science at the University of California, Berkeley. Before we begin, thank you. This is a lively audience. We should do more of this stuff. Before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping notes. Please take a moment to silence your phones, and our conversation will run about 90 minutes. And when you came in, you should have gotten a note card and a pencil, and you can write down your questions, and we'll collect them during the event and pass them along to Mr. Lewis throughout the discussion. Our event tonight is part of the Goldman School's Democracy Book Club. It's a series highlighting authors whose work deepens our understanding of democracy by exploring the institutions, policies, and civic traditions that shape public life. As a school of public policy located at the People's University, UC Berkeley, we are deeply interested in what gets in the way of good citizenship, and we want to develop skills, tools, knowledge, and ultimately policies that remove these impediments to inspire, shape, change, and produce civic flourishing. As we all know, our democratic systems today are under strain from political suppression and hyperpolarization to disinformation and eroding trust and faith in our institutions and leaders. This moment calls for new ideas, new voices, and new inspirations, especially from colleges and universities. The Goldman School and other schools of public policy, public affairs, and public administration are the only intellectual fields created expressly to strengthen and improve the understanding and performance of our democratic institutions and government. We care about the public, we care about the people who lead our institutions and government, and we care about public servants who lead us. And you should know this, everyone should know this. The Goldman School is the #1 school of public policy in the nation. Now, some might argue that at this moment, our field of public policy and public affairs is the field that matters most. By closing critical gaps in knowledge, innovation, capacity, and communication, our schools can play a transformative role in promoting, protecting, and delivering on the promise of American democracy. Indeed, our democracy places a responsibility on all elements, inclusive of government, local, state, and federal, private industry, philanthropy, and each individual to fulfill its promise. And the Goldman School is here to help. At the Goldman School, we're advancing a democracy policy agenda fueled by rigorous evidence and committed minds to identify, study, organize, and share forces for democratic renewal. This work and this vision have all been made possible through generous support from the Evelyn and Walter Haas Jr. Fund, the Levi Strauss Foundation, the Walter and Elise Haas Fund, and the Peter E. Haas Jr. Fund. We thank them deeply because none of this would be possible without their belief and their investment. Please give them a round of applause for supporting our work. And so tonight, we're honored. We're here to have a lively, timely, and necessary conversation about the state of American democracy. Hearing from our dear Goldman School colleague and renowned public intellectual, Professor Robert Reich, and one of the most prolific and brilliant minds of our time, author and journalist Michael Lewis. Tonight's conversation will explore cultural, political, economic forces that have brought our democratic institutions to a critical crossroads. And we'll hear stories and lessons from Professor Reich's new memoir, Coming Up Short, a personal reflection of his life and career, and Mr. Lewis's latest work, a brilliant edited volume titled, Who is Government? By the end of this event, we will have key insights into not only how we got here, but what it will take to build a government. I laugh because I don't know how we got here, honestly. But I'm glad they're here to tell us, but we'll have those insights. Not just how we got here, but what it will take to build a government that truly serves the people, and maybe a people that truly serve government in our democracy. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming tonight's moderator, Mr. Michael Lewis, and our champion of ideas, Professor Robert Reich.
So I've lived in Berkeley we're coming on 30 years, and Bob has lived here for almost 20. And we've seen each other in passing just a couple of times, but we've never actually sat down and had a conversation. And so when he sent me a note asking me if I would come and interview him about his book and this film he's just made, I just jumped at it, because I thought it was just a chance to get to know him and create a little sense of indebtedness so he would buy dinner.
But now, I didn't know that, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
I will do it anyway.
So I'm running this show, right?
Really? Can I say something?
Are you? I can already tell you're going to be.
I want to say something.
You're going to be a hard guest. I can already tell you're going to be a hard guest.
I want to thank Michael Lewis. Can I just do that publicly? Because, Michael, when I asked you if you would join me tonight here, I don't think there was maybe 2 minutes before, and I wrote you, I emailed you, and you got right back to me, you said yes. And I think there was even an exclamation point.
Yeah.
But I also want to thank David Wilson, Dean David Wilson, an extraordinary leader of the Goldman School. And let me also thank probably the best staff. You know, the faculty are great, and I love faculty, and I am a member of the faculty. But the staff of the Goldman School needs a special recognition. They are truly fabulous. And this is a little bit weird, but can I ask the staff to stand up, please?
Are you done?
No, I'm not done. I want to.
You just let me know when you want to start.
Okay. I also want to thank Michael Lahanis Calderon, and Heather Lofthouse, and Michael and Heather are from this nonprofit that I co-created called Inequality Media, and they work so hard. And Elliot Kirshner, who is the director of this movie that was a bait and switch, because he told me that it was just going to be a video, and it became a movie called The Last Class. And Elliot, thank you. Okay, I'm done. Thank you very much.
So there's a structure to the evening. I got him for about 40 minutes to go over roughly 80 years, and then then it's yours, and I'll decide what questions of yours will be asked. But I want to, before we get into, I'm sure a lot of people are here to hear you talk about what's going on in the country, but I want to start by what's going on in you, because this is a memoir you've written. It's places very personal, and I thought there were 3 stories that kind of jumped out at me from your early life that I wanted you to recount because I'm sure the book is new and people wouldn't have read it yet, and to sort of set up the conversation. And the first is this story when you were a very young child, of the way you were tormented at school, and where your interest in bullies comes from, as having been on the wrong end of it. There's no right end of it. And the story, particularly the episode with you and the principal or the head teacher and the bathroom. Could you just describe what your life was like when you were 4 years old?
It was really hell. Most kids are. Were you bullied as a kid? Most kids are bullied to some extent.
Not like you.
Well, I was bullied because I was very short, And I think anybody who's different in any way really is a target of bullies. And I didn't want to go to school, and every day it was a big, big deal, even getting on the bus. I didn't want to be on the playground. I wanted to be, because I was basically afraid. And with that fear, and I was afraid for good reason, because the kids, the first graders and the second graders, children don't know how mean they can be.
They don't know the effects of what they were doing.
They don't really understand. And I think it came one day when I was in kindergarten and the second graders met me in the boys' room and turned me upside down, hugged me over the toilet, and said that they were going to plunge me into the toilet head first. And I just screamed, got out of there, ran down the corridor, got back to the kindergarten, and I didn't want to ever go into the boys' room again. Well, if you want to know the story, you've got to read the book.
No. A lot of people got the bundled deal here.
Well,
so you've already sold the book.
Okay. To make a very long story much, much shorter, I devised a system over the years when I was between the ages of 5 and 8 of having an older boy kind of watch over me and keep the bullies at bay. And Michael, you know the end of the story because you read the book. When I was a freshman in college, I learned that one of the boys who, when I was 8 years old, had watched over me and kept the bullies at bay was named Mickey. I called him Mickey. I didn't know his last name when I was a kid, but I learned when I was a freshman in college that Mickey had been among the civil rights workers who had gone down to Mississippi to register voters when Mickey was in his 20s. And he was named Michael Schwerner. And he, along with 2 other civil rights workers, were brutally murdered by the Ku Klux Klan. And when I discovered that my protector had been brutally murdered by the real bullies, but not by kids holding me upside down, not by childhood tormentors, but by the real bullies, it really did change my life in terms of seeing bullying and seeing the results of bullying all around me. Black people being bullied by white supremacists, employees being bullied by employers, women being bullied by men, people with power having the power to bully and exploit, harass, diminish, belittle other people without the power. And I became perhaps acutely, perhaps too oversensitive to these issues of bullying and power. And so that when the bully-in-chief, Donald Trump, became president, my curiosity, and it was more curiosity than anything else, was triggered. How did this happen? How was it possible that this country would elect and then obviously re-elect a bully, a brutish bully?
It's his chief trait, this bullying.
Yeah.
But
it's his chief trick, did you say?
His chief trait. It's
chief trait, yes.
It's the most important thing about him.
Yeah.
So it's funny, the death of that young man in Mississippi was the second thing I wanted to ask you about, so you already got to it. But you say it changed your life. I would have thought by the time you got to your freshman year in college, you would have already been extremely sensitive to unfairness, to inequality. Is that so? Where does that interest runs through your work, runs through your class, and I want to talk a little bit about your class. But kind of 2 questions here. One is, when did you first have a sense that you had that gene, like really concerned with that subject, like interested in the weak, the vulnerable? And the second thing is, when did you start to write? Like, your writing life has been so important to your career and your life, and doesn't just follow from a career in government service or, the Yale Law School that you are going to become a writer, and you're quite natural writer. When did that emerge in your life?
Can I ask for equal time in terms of... Because I am very curious about your illustrious career as a writer. So I will answer. I will answer your question.
I feel like my role here is to be the stripper's pole, and that you're the stripper.
I think we have enough time.
You're supposed to dance around me.
I think we have enough
and
time.
Disrobe. And I'm supposed to stay here kind of in a neutral way and not reveal very much.
You lost the whole point, Michael. I'm going to ask you, because this is a discussion, and I will answer your question.
Yeah.
And your question I can't remember. No, your question was when did I first become sensitive to these issues of unfairness?
And connected up to your writing ability.
And connected up to writing. Well, I think it was very early on, maybe even earlier than kindergarten, because my parents moved to this little waspy town in New York State, 7 miles north of New York City. When I was 2, we were the only Jewish family within 50, 60, 80 miles. And we were greeted by a group of town elders. My mother thought that they were actually there coming to our house to welcome us. But they were, according to my parents, and I don't remember this, but they came in and they said, Mr. and Mrs. Reich, this is a Christian community, and we don't think you will be happy here. I knew nothing of this, but I did sense my parents' feelings of being outsiders, of not being wanted. My father owned a little woman's clothing store. He worked extremely hard, 6 days a week. My mother helped him. I was also aware of how difficult it was for him. He would come home at night and he would most nights he had an upset stomach from the pressure. So all of that together, I think, made me aware of issues of unfairness, of differences, of being outsiders or being insiders. And that's always been there. Now, in terms of writing, from the earliest years I can remember, as soon as I was able to hold a pencil, and it was a pencil, as soon as I was able to hold a pencil, I was writing. And I was writing books. I never got them published, but they're always little children's books. And my parents were always after me to go out and play, and I didn't want to. I wanted to sit there at my desk and write.
Was it because playing wasn't fun?
Part of it was that playing wasn't fun and I didn't want to be teased, but partly because I felt so comfortable. I just loved it. I loved writing, and I loved illustrating the books and the chapters. And now it's my turn, Michael Lewis. What? No, seriously.
They're going to leave disappointed and ask for their money back if we go in this direction.
I am curious, because I want to tell you, honestly, and you said, you and I have passed each other over and over and over again in Berkeley. I've never had a chance to tell you how much I love your writing. Truly.
Oh, thank
love
you.
it. And it's the kind of writing that I wish I could do. It looks easy. That's the hardest kind of writing, because you are able to put together stories that are powerful and subtle and complicated, and you make them look and sound the ear very simple. And some fabulous talents. I really, I love it. I love your writing. So when did you start with all of that?
The pole has become the stripper. So I have a really unconventional literary backstory in that I never had a sense of myself as a writer growing up. I grew up in New Orleans. It's a storytelling culture. It's a slow culture, and it's stagnant. So you're in a world where there are characters, and they're permanent characters. You can pick up stories where you left off. So I grew up telling stories and listening to stories. But I mean, you're looking at a guy who got C's in English class all the way through to my senior year. I kind of woke up my senior year in high school. And I gotta tell you, here's a story. The book I wrote called The Blind Side was that one of the main characters, the dad in the family, Sean Toohey, was in my class from kindergarten through 12th grade. He was a year older. He was kind of a year older than me. I was young for the class. He was old for the class. He was a spectacular athlete. He was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds and the New Jersey Nets to play both basketball and baseball. And I played sports with him growing up. That was the extent of our relationship. Had not seen him since high school. When I land in Memphis to give actually a talk about Moneyball, and I was thinking about writing something about my high school baseball coach, and I thought, Sean had this kind of deep relationship with the coach that I had, and I ought to go see Sean and talk to him just a bit about it. So I told him I was coming in. He comes and picks me up at the airport. So I haven't seen him in 20 years. And the first thing out of his mouth when he sees me is not, "Hey, how you doing?" or "big hug." He looks up at me and goes, "So who writes your books?" And I said, Sean, I write my books. And he goes, "Man, I see you on TV. You're great on TV. You're great marketing them." He says, you sell those things well. He says, "But who actually puts the words on the page?" And I said, "Sean, I put the words on the page." And he goes, "No, you don't. You're dumb shit just like me. You sat in the back of Dr. Francis's English class and you got C's." And if you asked anybody who knew me, I bet if you asked people who knew you when you were a kid, they'd say, "Oh, I'm not that surprised." If you ask anybody who knew me when I was a kid, they think it's some sort of fraud has been perpetrated. And this is not just self-deprecation. This is honest self-deprecation.
It sounds like honest self-deprecation.
Yeah, it's true. No, but so I get to. I'll be quick because we need to get back to you. But I get to. I slid into Princeton because I was a baseball player and my dad went. And I kind of woke up, as I said, into my senior year in high school. So I started to become a good student. And I got to Princeton, and no one there. I never wrote for a school newspaper. Never had the faintest notion of myself as a writer. So this is like a lesson for anybody who's got kids or any kids. Like you never know what's inside someone. I get to my senior year in college, and to get out of Princeton, you had to write a thesis. I was an art history major. I
was an art history major.
You don't mention this in the book.
No, I don't. I've never heard.
You withhold.
I withhold.
There's so much. This book is 400 pages long. How do you leave that out?
I never.
How did you leave that out?
But how did you leave out the fact I've never heard? It's not in any biography that you were an art history major at Princeton.
It's there is a small army of unemployed art historians who I hear from because the word is out there. So I fell in love with art history.
I did too. What was your period?
Early Renaissance, early Italian Renaissance.
I was 19th century American.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that
It
interesting?
is good. A lot of what interested me, it was driven by who the professors were because it's a small.
Me too. Yeah.
But there was this question of. So I wrote my thesis. It doesn't matter what it was about, but it was about Donatello. It was an original thesis. A thesis was not like any other academic exercise I'd ever engaged in. It was wholly immersive. Took a year to do. It was the length of a book, small book. And something happened to me. I just loved it. And I thought, oh, this is what I meant to do. I meant to be an art historian. And I went to my
almost. You almost got it.
I went to my thesis defense thinking that. And the thesis got a good grade. And actually, the professor, the guy who ran the department, was my advisor. And there was a little part of him that could not believe I had written this thing. That
there's a theme.
There's a theme. He thought of me as this kind of charming preppy from New Orleans who was kind of, airhead's too strong, but it was just a little, just like unserious. And I can remember him, I remember saying to him, like, I think maybe this means I should be an art historian. He said it was publishable, which he said, he said, we don't see these things often. It was an extraordinary piece of work for some coming out of me. And he said, so once he established I had written it, I was like, well, I think I want to be an art historian. He says, you're not an art historian. He says, you're never going to be an art historian. And he also said, he was actually kind of paternalistic. They're not going to be art historians, really. The whole industry is collapsing. So don't do that. And so I said,
didn't know that there was an industry of art
in the moment,
historians.
the career, the path was not as obvious as it had been for him. And so he said, I remember in that defense, I remember thinking, oh, not an art historian, maybe this means I want to write. Maybe I'm a writer. And I said to him, he was telling me what he thought of this. I said, what did you think about the writing? And his pipe comes down and he looks at me, he says, put it this way, never try to make a living at it. And I got to rub his nose in that. When I gave the Princeton commencement speech about a decade ago, and I got to tell that story to the whole Princeton University community. Anyway, but this is where I discovered that. I just said, Christ, this is what I'm going to do this. I have some feeling when I'm doing this that I've never experienced before. And it was a kind of passion, that's what it was, an intellectual passion. And I'm going to go find a way to replicate that in the world. And it was a really messy story getting from there to actually writing a book. But that was the beginning of it for me.
Interesting.
So what I don't have, and what you do have, is an obvious motive. Like what you endured as a kid was rough. And how you get, in your book, how you get from the little kid who's being very badly treated. You have some good things happen in school where a teacher explains to you that you're special. They figure out what's going on. It's the things that are going on inside of you that are important. But how you get from that kid who doesn't want to go to the bathroom because he's afraid what's going to happen to him, to president of your freshman class at Dartmouth is not explained by your memoir. I will explain it. Explain it.
If you're interested.
I'm interested, because by the time you're a president of your freshman class at Dartmouth, you are obviously you. You're the same.
Yeah, I haven't changed a bit. No, seriously.
But I want to know how that. I want to know how that happened.
Well, I'll tell you. In third grade. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. I'm listening.
This is going to take a long time. No, it won't. I'll truncate this.
No,
in third grade, I had a teacher named Alice Camp. And I came into that third grade feeling like a failure, feeling ashamed, feeling like a freak, feeling like somebody who really did not deserve to be on the earth. And she saw in me something that I did not see in me. This is about teaching, and the movie that Elliot and Heather made is really about teaching as well. And in the book, I talk a lot about teaching. It's a passion with me. But what she did is, because she saw in me something, I was able to see that in me. Very often, you can't see something in yourself unless somebody else sees it in you. And she was such a generative, powerful, I think in retrospect, loving person. I've written about her before, and I got a wonderful email from her granddaughter and saying, that's the greatest present you could possibly have given.
Did she know what she'd done for you?
No.
I mean,
No.
she didn't hear from you from Dartmouth or...
No. And I, like most people, I never bothered to thank my teachers. I mean, I went through public school all the way until college. I should have come to Berkeley for college. That was a big mistake.
Oh,
No, really, it was a mistake. Dartmouth College,
your life would be completely different.
well, unlike Princeton, I went to Dartmouth. Dartmouth College was, in those years, a monastery in Siberia. I mean, really, there were no women. The roads were iced over 6 months. There was no interstate highway system connecting Dartmouth to any place else. I really did not know what I missed, but I missed life.
That's not the word you use in the book.
No. So Alice Camp really did see something in me. And then it was a straight line. After Alice Camp, I was...
All it took was her.
Well, it may have... some other teachers also saw a lot in me. But what I discovered, and I discovered it in writing my memoir, hadn't put it together before, is that my father, who lived until about 2 weeks before his 102nd birthday, I just about a week before he died, I was lying next to him in his bed and hugging him, and I said, "Dad, I love you." And he said, "That's interesting." And I said, why is that interesting? I said, I love you. He said, "It's interesting because we were never a very demonstrative family." And I said, "Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, you hug me, I hug you. We've always been demonstrative." And what he had mixed up was that his own father had been very hard on him. His own father had told him that he would never amount to anything. Can you imagine that?
I can't imagine that.
I mean, I can't either. I knew him as a lovely old kind of man, a kind of a grandfather, but he was cruel to my father, and my father ended up having a tremendous sense of inferiority, deep inferiority. He worked hard, and he never thought that he was good at anything. And so I, at some subconscious level, worried that by being such a shrimp, I was, in some sense, confirming my father's sense that he was not worth anything. And so I was determined to be somebody he would be proud of for himself.
Oh.
And so I remember I got the idea of running for president of my freshman class, which in those days, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, now,
Had you ever run for anything before then?
I had never, but
You'd run for high
I said,
school president.
I'm going to run for president. And you know what? I'm going to go to every single dorm room of every single dormitory and talk to every single member of this class. And I did. And then I called him when I was elected president of the class. I said, "Dad?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I've been elected president of my freshman class." And there was a long silence, and I could hear him smiling. Yep, that was it, Michael.
That was also, I want you to explain your first encounter with Hillary Clinton. Because it
Hillary
grows right from this experience.
Yeah. Well, Hillary went to Wellesley. One of the big disadvantages of going to Dartmouth College, which was that monastery in Siberia, and being under 5 feet tall, was that I was never going to meet a woman, right, who would actually look at me and think of me as a potential boyfriend. And so I came up with this idea. I was president of the freshman class, so I came up with this idea. I'm going to have conferences, of all sorts of conferences, of interesting conferences that will attract, if I just bring up boatloads of girls, which my class wanted me to do, and I did, but they were not going to look at me. I wanted to have conferences on interesting and important issues, and guess who arrived for one of those conferences? Hillary Rodham, not Hillary Clinton, Hillary Rodham, who became Hillary Clinton. And there was a conference about educational reform. Michael, it was. But
your MO is very different from mine at that age.
Wait a minute. And then I took her. I said, "Do you want to see a movie?" She said, "Sure." And then we had what she considered and I considered a date.
At the time, she considered it a date.
I think yes, because years later, when she ran for president, a reporter for the New York Times found a cache of her letters from Wellesley. And in those letters, apparently, she said that she had gone out with a boy from Dartmouth, and we had gone to see a movie at the Nugget Theater in Hanover, New Hampshire, and his name was Bob Reich. And the reporter called me. Remember, she's running for president. And the reporter called me and said, "Is there anything you can tell me about that date?" And I said, "Well, no, no. We went to a movie. We saw Antonioni's Blow Up." And the reporter said, "Well, is there anything you can tell me about seeing the movie or having that date that might shed light on how she'd perform as a president?"
You can't blame him for trying.
I stopped. Here was this is the telephone, and I thought, well, I'm going to have some fun here. And I said, I'm not sure I'm supposed to tell you this. And she said, "Please do." And I said, well, she wanted an inordinate amount of butter on her popcorn. And that made it into the New York Times. Seriously. It did.
Can I poke and prod you a little bit about this date?
No.
Just a little.
Yes, no.
Was there
remember
any
much.
tension in the air?
Tension?
Yeah, a little. Was there anything going on?
Absolutely zero. I think it was anti-tension.
Yeah.
Afterwards. No, I was smitten in a way. I mean, she was, she had big, thick glasses. She was not glamorous in any way, but she had so much energy and the greatest laugh you've ever heard. And she was so smart. She was so bright. And I really wanted to ask her out again, but I couldn't come up with another conference.
Are you still friends?
Yeah, but I didn't support her when she ran. What was it? 2008. I supported Obama, and she was pissed off, and I think Bill was pissed off too, and so our friendship cooled at that point.
When was the last time you heard from her?
Maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I don't think I'm a very important person in her life.
Right. So I want to talk a little bit more about your writing, and then I want to talk about your role in politics. I want to talk about politics and government.
Yes,
and I want to make sure we have enough time to do this.
I want to talk about government too, because
we've both been writing about it.
Well, I want to brag about your book, because your books are fabulous. All your books, they, as I said, they take complicated subjects, and a lot of them are mathematics and sports and things that I know very little about. And you've explained them to me so clearly. And your books about government and about the civil service and about the people who are doing the hard work of making these institutions respond to the public, I found inspiring and very consistent with my experience when I was in Bill Clinton's cabinet.
So, can I become the stripper for just a little bit longer?
Yeah.
I want to talk about these little books to come back to you to talk about your experience in government, because you came to government the honest way. You had a deep interest in public policy. You were interested in politics. I came to government because Donald Trump got elected president. And the day after he was elected president, he fired his 550-person transition team. And I thought, we know a couple of things about Donald Trump. He doesn't know anything about anything, and he certainly doesn't know anything about the government. And he's going to be running this thing. And that he didn't have any interest in the mechanism for learning about this thing he was going to run riveted me. And I thought, if he isn't going to get the briefings that the Obama administration put 1,000 people to the task of creating over 6 months, then I can. And that this will be fun. It was just like, this is literary material, that I can wander the government and walk in any department and have it explained to me by people who are hungry to explain it to the people who are going to be running it. And so the fifth risk ended up being the book, and it starts with the first briefing I get is how to run the nuclear arsenal. And I thought, man, this is just great. like I'm the only one who now knows, that everybody else is leaving, and the reader will be in on the joke.
How did you get them to give you that briefing? I mean,
they were in a room off Connecticut Avenue. They have left their offices and and they had the presentation, and they sure, come on in. There was some stuff that was classified that they couldn't tell me, but I got the gist, and I could. It was.
You are lucky. You are still free as a civilian.
But what I realized is that one. That this material, which might have been otherwise kind of inert, is basically a civics lesson. It's me wandering around the federal government trying to figure out what the hell it does, because our president, who's supposed to be running it, doesn't care. This material had been electrified by Donald Trump. And it was, for what it was, an enormous success. It was 3 articles in Vanity Fair, and there was a huge market for it, and it was fun to do. And in the process of doing that, I didn't realize it until the very end, that these people, and a lot of these people who worked in the government, were legitimate literary characters. They were mission-driven. They were curious, and they were odd characters, a lot of them. And when I finally, when I was done with the fifth risk, I came back to write the paperback, and I grabbed almost arbitrarily one of these characters. And wrote him up as I would write, a character sketch. And the material was so good, I thought, I've just got to come back to this. And the Who is Government book is just that, but we're doing it with a bunch of other writers. And I'm coming back to, right now, I'm in the agonizing stage of another book, a book about this Trump administration's collision with the civil service. So I've gotten interested in it, but I come in, I sort of foul hook the subject. I did not come in thinking, I really want to write about government. I've just gotten naturally interested because of what's going on in the world. And I didn't want to get to this till later, but now we're here. You were Secretary of Labor. By the way, in the film, you've got your cabinet chair that you in your office, and you're trying to dispose of it. You call the White House and offer to give it back. They don't know what you're talking about. In Berkeley, you just put the chair out on the sidewalk. Well, it's not that hard. But
would it be recycled? Do you think?
Someone will pick it up.
Somebody would.
Yeah, someone will pick it up. But that when you get to that job, you'd worked in government before, but when you're running the Labor Department, do you have a similar sort of response to it? Like, wow, I didn't know. I'm surprised by the caliber of the person here. What is your? What is it like?
One of the biggest surprises was the quality of the civil service, the permanent career people in the Labor Department. Now, I went to visit my predecessor before I took the job because I just wanted to know what she knew about the Labor Department. And I went into this just gigantic office. I mean, it was the biggest office I'd ever seen. And in the distance outside these windows that were the floor-to-ceiling windows on two sides of this giant room, I could see the Capitol building, this majestic, powerful dome. And I was very moved. And I sat down with the woman who was the previous Secretary of Labor, and I said, well, how do I do this? Tell me how to do it. And she was a Republican, and she said, you're a Democrat. All the people here, they'll love you. You don't have to worry about a thing. And she was really referring to the career civil service. And her experience had been, and this is true of most of the Republican appointees to cabinet positions, that the civil service is their nemesis. The civil service is trying to stop them from wrecking what the departments ought to be doing. Well, my experience was just the opposite. My experience was exactly as she said. I have never worked with a group of people as talented, as dedicated, and as self-effacing. They just didn't want to take credit. I wanted to, at various public events, I wanted to single them out. They didn't want that. They just wanted to do their work, and their work was incredibly important.
Do you think that they were, in fact, obstructing her? Do you think that she had a legitimate point?
Yes. Not entirely. That is, I think that the civil service I came to know, the public servants, the career people, they had an attitude which was, this too shall pass. The political appointees, Robert Reich, my predecessor, anybody, will not be here very long. So whatever you don't like about them, don't worry, they'll leave.
You're a substitute teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I felt a little bit like that. But after, they didn't think I was going to stay more than 2 years. A lot of cabinet people, they leave after 2 years. I stayed 4.5 years, and by the third year, I had enough credibility and knew them well enough that we started to really do some dynamite stuff.
Does it make you wonder if we've got the proper structure for our government? The people coursing through at the very top of these organizations who are only going to be there for a couple of years, that they aren't really, that we need a deeper state?
It's a good question. I mean, right now, obviously, we're talking about the federal government.
Yeah.
No, none of this is about state or local. We're talking about the federal government. The federal government, obviously, we all know, is shut down, is not operating, and the people who are so-called essential workers are not getting paid. Air traffic controllers are not getting paid. I want them paid for obvious reasons and fairness, but and the head of our government really does not respect people working in the federal government. I think that's clear. And the head of OMB, Office of Management and Budget, Russell Vogt. Let's have a bit of respect. Russell Vogt really doesn't, I think, have any respect or any admiration whatsoever for any federal civil servant. I mean, he's breaking the law. They're all breaking the law.
Yeah. Yes.
I've never seen.
We just took a right turn onto a road I didn't want to get on until a little later because I have a feeling that this is going to be all about Trump. I want to stop you for 1 sec because I want you to
I was
talk,
just getting going.
I know you're just getting going. So let's do it this way because you've given a lot of advice to a lot of presidents and to presidents and presidential candidates. Has anybody ever taken it?
That's not an easy question to answer.
I'm reading your book. It's between the lines.
Yeah, I think that a few of them tried to. Bill Clinton did, actually, for the first year of his administration, I believe. But coming up with policy ideas, and I don't know, I want you to know that I respect schools of public policy. I don't just respect them, I love them. And the Goldman School of Public Policy is the best school of public policy in the world. Can I just say that? However,
I don't doubt that, but how do we know?
However, public policy and politics don't always go together. And if you don't have enough political will, it's very hard to do what the policy process might suggest is the best outcome. So it's always been a pull and tug, Michael.
Describe your class to us a little bit. I mean, I watched the film, love the film. The class called Wealth and Poverty?
Yeah.
Has it been the same class since you've been here?
No, I started teach. Well, I taught. You know, I can't believe I'm not teaching. I am teaching a little bit.
I don't understand with a father who died at 102 what on earth you're doing stopping now. You might have another 20 good years in you.
Well, I hope so. But I didn't want to. I was just feeling that I was losing a little bit of my edge. Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's not obvious.
Do you know? Huh? No, but you know what I'm talking about. You're a young man. You're a young man.
I don't feel.
You're a young man.
I mean, I understand you see people lose a step, but you have not obviously lost a step.
Well, I am 10 days younger than Donald Trump.
He's lost some steps.
He's lost a lot of steps.
Yes.
And I look at him and I think, you know, maybe I really am losing more than I think I am.
I wouldn't tell you, but I wouldn't
you.
make such a point of not telling you.
But,
that it's no, you don't come across as old.
Flaky?
Old. Well, the brain's not old.
The brain, well, who knows? I mean, the brain, we're all aging.
As you speak, we're aging. That's true.
I mean, this is something that I hate to share this with you, but it's really true. There is a process called aging, and it ends at some point. And that's the end. It really is the end. And so...
What a teacher.
Let me just say. So I decided to retire because I didn't feel I could give my students everything that they deserved.
All right. Again, not obvious, but it's so. I want you to explain the class that you were teaching at the end. It seemed like you were explaining how our society got to be the way it was, so I want to hear what this class is, and I want to hear your theory of this case.
Okay.
Explain how we got to Donald Trump.
Okay. Here it comes.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'll read these things while you speak. I'll be listening. I'm here. I'm just going to look at it.
You're reading while I speak. How can you listen?
But I can do both.
You can't.
I'm listening.
Okay.
I swear I'm listening. Just let me see what.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Let him go to sleep or read. So here's what happened. Well, those of you who have read my book will know this, but I'm going to assume you haven't yet had a chance to read my book. At the Cheese Board Collective, where I go almost every morning to get my coffee, I come across people, and this morning, in fact, every morning, but this morning especially, two people came up to me and said, at different points in time, they said, I love the film. But I haven't read the book. You ready?
I'm listening.
So here's what happened. There's a fellow named Lewis Powell. Lewis Powell was asked by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in 1971 to write a memo that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce could distribute to all of the businesses, big businesses in America, that would explain to the businesses why they had to not just support the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, but also start pouring big money into politics. Now, Lewis Powell, this is before he was a Supreme Court justice, he wrote this memo, and it became the thing that every CEO in America had read, certainly by 1973, 74, and it was all about if you don't really come up with money, if your corporation does not become a major force in American politics, then we are going to have the special interests, and by special interests, Lewis Powell was talking about the environmentalists and the consumer groups, and the Naderites, and and labor, organized labor. We're going to have all of these groups starting to undermine American capitalism. And so it is up to you. They are already formulating, they're already becoming more and more powerful. And Lewis Powell really put the fear of God into the C-suites of America. And after that memo was widely distributed, that is the time, that was the beginning of big money, big corporate money in American politics. And I can trace year by year by year, and certainly decade by decade, how we get to Donald Trump. Because once you have that much money in politics, you have widening inequality, because the people who have a lot of money and the CEOs of companies and the major investors and the Wall Street people, they know and discover, if they didn't know before, they can get a lot of benefits in terms of lower taxes and, they can get government to stop worrying about monopolies and stop worrying about and not allow workers to organize in terms of labor unions. And they can get a lot of stuff that they want, regulatory rollbacks, and they can get it and they can make more money. And that generates even more lobbying and more money and more public relations in American politics. And Washington turns from a backwater, a sleepy, seedy backwater town, a southern backwater, into a glittering, rich national emerald city. And what happens? American workers get shafted. And as American workers get shafted, they get angry. And as they get angry, the Democratic Party that should have been there for them is drinking at the same trough as the Republican Party in terms of campaign finance. And so nobody is there for average working people. And average working people lose their jobs, they lose their sense of their place in American society, their sense of status and honor, and they feel that the elites are shafting them. And they are.
They're not wrong.
They're right.
I mean, the financial crisis is where this all comes to a head.
It comes to a head in 2008. They see the banks getting bailed out. Not a single CEO of any major bank goes to jail, even though the banks caused millions of Americans to lose their homes, their savings, their jobs. And the banks were bailed out, but the average homeowners that were underwater, they didn't get bailed out in a Democratic administration. And people said, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. And out of there, then you see the Tea Party movement on the right and what was then called the Occupy movement on the left. And then on the right, you eventually get Donald Trump. And on the left, you eventually get Bernie Sanders.
That it?
Oh, no, I have much more.
No, but
you have to read the book.
I have read the book. What I'm wondering is your class, though. Is this class, what is this, give us
the purpose of the class?
Yeah,
the purpose of the class. Well, first of all, you have to understand, I don't say what I just said to the class.
Right.
I don't want them to know what I think I know. I want them to discover it. The process of education is about discovery. It's about critical thinking skills. I am not going to lecture. I'm going to have them be befuddled and confused, and I'm going to try to provoke, and I'm going to get them all troubled up. And that's what I want.
You've been doing this for what, 40 years?
42.
How have the students changed? And are the Berkeley students different from the Harvard students?
Is oil different from water?
Yeah, is that different?
No, look, I think it's hard to generalize about students and generations and schools, but there's no question in my mind that the University of California, Berkeley students are, number one, better than the Harvard students.
Really?
Yeah. No, I don't. I'm quite serious. They are less entitled. They are less arrogant. They don't believe that the world owes them anything. And a third of my students here at Cal were transfer students. And that is one of the secrets of the University of California, Berkeley. That's one of the great untold secrets. All of those transfer students from community colleges, they have made it.
The whole Cal system's this miracle.
The Cal system
is this engine for social mobility.
It's the most powerful
ossified,
engine
right,
of upward social mobility in America.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we're going to do some audience questions.
Okay.
As a fellow 4'11" person,
Is there really somebody?
how do you find the courage to take up space and stand up to bullies?
How do I find the courage to
Take up space and stand up to bullies.
Oh, it's very easy. It has nothing to do with height at all. It has to do with fury. But control fury. That is, I wake up, as you must, and you read the paper and you look at what's happening, and now a piece of you, I'm sure, Michael, a piece of you is outraged.
I try to channel it rather than just get angry.
Exactly. This is
I
exactly.
try to channel it in a different direction.
Okay, how do you channel it?
Try to make Donald Trump work for me. Because if he doesn't work for you, you work for him. So I try to figure out how to detach myself, find the humor, find the story, find the jujitsu move that is the one he least wants me to make on him.
And then what do you do? Once you find the jiu-jitsu move?
I generate a book. I mean, that's what I'm doing
Okay,
right now. I'm doing it right now.
Okay, well, that's what you do.
Right.
Well, I do it in a miniature way.
Right.
What you do. That is, I wake up in the morning and I'm so angry, I channel it and I write usually a Substack piece, and then I and my fabulous colleagues at Inequality Media, we might do a script or we might do a video, but it's all that channeling.
Right. I've gotten less and less interested in the shorter stuff. I really like the longer stuff, and I know that's sort of counterculture right now.
That's sort of heightest of you.
But I think you can actually. There's a power in narrative. There's just a huge power in narrative. So the question was, if you were as a 4'11" person, how you found the courage to do this, and you said that it wasn't about height at all. I'm curious how you think your life would have turned out if you were 6'3".
Probably the same. No, that's not right at all. I said it and without thinking. No, I think I would have been entirely different. Now, two people who were very close friends of mine, who are no longer with us. One is John Kenneth Galbraith, who was 6'8".
Yep.
And we would wander around Cambridge, Massachusetts, talking, and people would stop on the sidewalk. And he's just a splendid, funny, extraordinary writer, great, wonderful friend. The other was 6'7", and he was Senator Alan Simpson.
Are you attracted to tall people?
My wife is not tall, but she's not short. So that's a very interesting question.
But I think, I mean, I'm just guessing, but that if you hadn't started out the way you started out, you'd be an entirely different person. That you might not have gotten this acute sensitivity to the weak and the vulnerable. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you may be right.
And maybe on the other hand, maybe you would have had it all and you'd have been elected governor of Massachusetts.
Well, I ran for governor of Massachusetts.
I know. And you didn't do badly. You don't talk about this in the book much.
No, it was actually a terrible experience.
I was talking 25%
I was talking to somebody who who shall remain anonymous, who is in this audience, who is a politician, but I don't want to embarrass this person. But just before, I was talking to this person, and we were talking about how hard it is to run for office and how humiliating the process is. Particularly, and this person said, I'm delighted to raise money for good causes, but when it comes to raising money for me, it felt wrong, it felt bad. That's exactly my experience. It was just a horrible, horrible, embarrassing.
You dismissed the subject in the book with a single line. You were a terrible campaigner, is what you said. But that's just hard to believe.
I was a pretty good campaigner, but I hated campaigning. And so that made me not...
The person who went door to door to his Dartmouth student class.
That was different. That was when I was much younger.
Right.
And I was doing it, in retrospect, I now understand, for my father.
Right.
No, I was not running for governor of Massachusetts for my father. I was running governor of Massachusetts because I thought I could actually do a great job.
Right.
But I ran into a buzzsaw, which is raising money. And then there was this is 2002, there was a day where I was addressing a very large group of LGBTQ people. Yeah. And I was asked in this very large crowd, am I in favor of equal marriage rights? Equal marriage rights. Now, up until that point, the only thing that the most progressive governors were agreeing to was some sort of civil union, but not equal marriage rights. They didn't want to go that far. And I said in that campaign, I am in favor of equal marriage rights. And everybody applauded. And I got off the stage, and my campaign manager, he looked white. All the blood had drained from his face. And I said, are you okay? He said, you just lost.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Huh. It was masterful how Obama played all that. He waited till the country had moved before he said, I've moved.
Yes.
He acted the part of the country. He internalized it. And he knew he would have been in favor of it 30 years ago.
Obama was and is an extraordinary politician. People don't even know how good he is. Now, he was slow on the Affordable Care Act. I mean, Nancy Pelosi had to push him. And by the way, Nancy Pelosi is even a better politician than Barack Obama. She's a truly gifted politician.
What's your relationship with Obama now?
Well, I haven't seen him for years, but I'm sure it's fine. I mean, there's no...
Did he take your advice?
He did in a couple of instances, not many. He had a chief of staff named Rahm Emanuel,
yep,
who I didn't like, and he didn't like me. And that sort of makes it difficult to communicate with the president when the chief of staff doesn't particularly like you. It just...
What was the source of that conflict?
I thought Rahm Emanuel, I still do. I mean, he wants to be president. And I think that corporate America, the establishment, the worst parts of the Democratic Party really are supporting him.
Yeah.
So I rest my case.
All right. About a month ago on X, Twitter, you said that you felt that Trump was peaking. Can you elaborate? Do you still feel that?
Peaking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. No, I think he's now heading downward very fast. He's now completely incoherent. If you listen to or watch him...
Was he ever not?
I think he used to be more coherent. I think he's far less coherent today.
Okay.
And his polls are dropping fairly quickly. Once inflation picks up, and it is picking up, and job growth really stalls, and it is stalling, he's going to be even less popular. So I think the people around him, it's the J.D. Vance and Vogt and this horrible Stephen Miller. These are the people who I really worry about. They are the ones who are manipulating him now. They want a president who is a little bit out of his mind because it's easier to manipulate.
What happens if Trump is gone tomorrow?
J.D. Vance will be a worse president than Trump.
But do you think he'll be able to control this mob?
Well, it's a good question. I think for a while, and you're talking about the MAGA faithful. I mean, the true MAGAs.
Yeah.
First of all, Michael, I don't think there are that many. I mean, I have just finished a book tour, and even before the book tour, I've been all over America.
Right.
And I talked to people in small towns, and I talked to a lot of Republicans. I'm amazed at how little support there actually is for what's called the MAGA movement. It is not really there. Most people are either non-political or apolitical, or they don't really like politics, or they think Trump. The people who I have talked with around America who are Trumpers, what they say is, number one, he's a businessman, so he knows what he's doing. Well, that's hello. Or number two, they'll say, well, he's a thug, but we need our thug because everybody else in the world has their thugs. The world is a tough place, and so he's prepared to do thuggery. Well, I don't find that a compelling argument. But I think that even the Trumpers that I run into are losing some steam.
What damage has he done that worries you the most?
It's the White House ballroom. I mean, it's supposed to be the people's house, right? It's the billionaire's house. He's transferring it. He's making it into. He wants the White House to be Versailles. That's his goal. He's putting gold everywhere. And do you know, if you make a contribution to that ballroom, you get your name etched in.
No.
Yes,
no.
You do.
It's true.
Right?
It can't be true.
It is. You get your name etched in gold and in plaster and in stone. I mean,
is in the same sort of way that you want your name etched in your booth at Saul's. You have. Yeah. I understand that is.
Saul's has not done that.
I know. But is this? But maybe this is like.
No, I just want a little tiny plaque.
But quite serious. What damage has he done that concerns you the most? If this thing flips, I agree. The country's so changeable. Yeah.
The country is very changeable.
And so let's just assume it changes. It changes in some better direction. What has he done that can't be repaired or can't easily be repaired?
Well, the Supreme Court is a big problem.
Yeah.
And I think that when...
Oh, you were in law school with Clarence Thomas. I didn't know that. I read it in your book. So you know the problem.
I was in law school with Clarence Thomas and Bill Clinton and Hillary.
Yeah.
And we were in the same classroom together, the three of us, and others. Dick Blumenthal, who was a senator from Connecticut. And the professors used to ask using the Socratic method, they would ask questions. Hillary's hand would be the first one in the air. And when she was called on, she would have these perfect answers. I mean, paragraph after paragraph, beautifully constructed syntax and verbs and nouns. I was just floored. I had my hand up half the time. When I was called, my answers were not very good. Clarence never had his hand up, never said a word, and Bill was never in class. True.
True?
Yeah, true. So they're characterological.
Can I ask?
What?
Where he was?
You can ask.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. He was always in some campaign. He was always on the phone. He was always...
There's a moment. There's a couple of moments in the book. You don't go into the underbelly of these people's lives, but there's a moment when Bill tells you that he's going to run for president, and or maybe it was even governor, no, it was president, not governor of Arkansas. And that you're sitting there thinking, is he prepared? Is there any, or if you ask him, are there any skeletons in your closet?
Oh, I did, yeah. Well, I knew there
You
were.
knew there were.
I knew there were many.
And how did you know there were many?
I refuse to answer that question on the ground. No, I mean, he had a reputation.
It wasn't skeletons that were in his closet.
No, there weren't skeletons.
No.
There were, somebody in that first campaign, in that 1992 campaign, was put in charge of what were crudely called bimbo eruptions.
Right.
To
prevent new ones or to cover up the old ones?
Both. I mean, every.
Right.
And
it was a live volcano.
Oh, it was. I don't know. I don't want to go there.
Okay.
But I asked him on the front porch of my house in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I said, "Are you okay? Are you sure? Skeletons in the closet? Are you all right?" And he said, "Everything under control. Everything's under control."
He said there were no skeletons.
And he said that.
And could you tell that he was not telling you the truth?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you learn to read him that way? Could you tell when he was not being honest?
I could tell. Remember, I met him when we were 22 years old.
No.
We were kids. We're going
Describe
across.
How you met him.
We're going across
story.
in those days, Rhodes Scholars.
Right.
There were 30 of us, 32 of us, and we were all. The tradition was you take a ship across the Atlantic Ocean together so that you get to know each other. And we did. And it was a very rough sea, and I got very sick, as most of my colleagues did. We all went down to our cabins, and there was a knock on my door. And I thought, oh, God, I don't want to talk to anybody. And I opened it, and there was this tall, gangly Southerner from Arkansas with soup, with chicken soup in one hand and crackers in the other hand. And he said, in his southern, syrupy Arkansas accent, he said, "I hear you weren't feeling too well, Bob." Or he said, "I hear we weren't feeling too well." He said, "My name is Bill Clinton." I said, "Well," I tried not to barf right on him at the point. And I said, "Well, I really, it's very kind of you." And I took the soup and I said, I can't talk right now. I'm not feeling very well. But Bill, it's nice to meet you. My name is Bob." And he said, "Isn't it amazing?" I said, "What?" He said, "It's amazing that we're here together on this ship going to Oxford." And that phrase, "Isn't it amazing that we're here, you and I," was the same phrase he used 20 years later when he was president and he had just sworn me in as labor secretary. He said, "Isn't it amazing you and I are here?"
Did he remember?
I don't know.
Yeah. I bet he did. How can we change the narrative about public service and government versus one-sided politics?
Michael, that's a very hard question that I go around and around on because bureaucrats are easy to pick on. Now, there was a little momentary window, two actually momentary windows. One was the bombing in Oklahoma City, where Timothy McVeigh ended up killing a large number of federal employees. And suddenly it seemed that America woke up to the fact that these people were just working for the public. They were just like your neighbors. In fact, they were your neighbors. They were all over the place. There are 2 million of them. And they care about what they do. And they were killed. And Bill Clinton gave a very powerful speech, I remember. And I remember there was it couldn't have been more than a month where the public really did change its attitude. And maybe had he said, or maybe had other people said, or maybe had we used that window better, we might have changed some public perceptions. The second was right after 9/11, when the public is panicked because you've got all these planes and nobody knows what's going on. And I think George W. Bush could have asked us as Americans to sacrifice in some way and laud the air traffic controllers and all of the government civil servants that were working so hard, but he didn't. Do you remember what he did, George W.?
What did he do instead?
He asked us to shop.
Oh, God.
Because he was worried about the economy.
Right.
But that was not really galvanizing.
No. If you had the power to change one law, what would it be and why?
One law?
Yeah.
I would, now this is not necessarily one law, but it's a constitutional provision.
Yeah.
I would get big money out of politics.
Yeah. People have tried.
Well, they've
John
tried.
McCain tried.
Well, yes, and this is not something that you can do permanently. That is, Teddy Roosevelt did, and during that progressive era,
Yep.
with Teddy Roosevelt and Taft and Wilson, they actually did get some way toward getting big money, big corporate money out of politics. But obviously, it wafted back in. And then, of course, after 1971 and Lewis Powell. But then you had a period of time after the Nixon administration where there was so much concern about what Nixon did that you had an opportunity to change the laws. And the laws were changed. But the Supreme Court eroded that. I mean, it's absurd. Every time I think about it, Michael, when the Supreme Court says that corporations are people,
Yeah.
and that money is speech, I mean, those two principles are not principles. They are just fabricated. They are nonsensical.
Yeah. You have a line in the last class in the film, and you don't follow through on the thought, but you do. There's this line where you say it's not okay. It's okay to be pessimistic. It's not okay to be cynical. Explain what you're going to tell your students after you say
Well,
that.
I tell my students that it's okay to be pessimistic. That is, I think you'd have to be a little bit out of your mind right now. Given what has happened and where we are and who has power, not to be a bit pessimistic. But cynicism is different. Cynicism is very close to hopelessness. If you're hopeless and you're cynical about the possibility of change, then the game is up. The game is over. Then they win.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They want us to be so hopeless and so cynical that we don't resist what they are doing.
Who are they?
They being the people who now have power. And I'm talking not only about the Trump administration, but also something that we have not talked about, and that is the oligarchs. We do have an oligarchy in the United States. And those oligarchs...
Yeah, I agree. I was about to say some of my best friends are oligarchs, but that was... but go ahead.
The oligarchs are... and we know, I've seen this happen. Inequality is now totally out of control. We've got about 750 to 800 people in this country who are billionaires, and they control, through their money, a great deal of what happens economically and politically in this country.
There's that statistic you give to your class of the top 400 richest families in the country control as much wealth as the bottom 50% of the population. It's a stunning statistic.
Well, it would be okay. It's not. I want to distinguish, and this is important. I want to distinguish between simply having a great deal of money, being a billionaire, and abusing that money and that power by getting favors.
Inequality does not bring out the best in people.
I don't think it does. Now, some inequality is necessary. That is, inevitable. There are going to be people who are smarter or physically more adept, and I think that any economy, any society needs some inequality to to act as a kind of driver, a motivator for people to invest and make jobs and create. But we've gone way beyond what is necessary. I mean, Ronald Reagan started this mythology of trickle-down economics. Nothing has ever trickled down. Nothing. And yet we fall for it over and over. George George W., another big tax cut for the very wealthiest, and then Donald Trump, 2 tax cuts for the wealthiest. Donald Trump, remember, the first Trump administration, he said the average American family would get $4,000 out of this. Zip.
Yeah.
And then we did it again.
We're down to our last question. We're out of time. How can we remain optimistic about the future of the United States under the current administration and a Supreme Court that enables it? So give us the case for optimism.
Okay, the case for optimism. And number one, young people. Now, as I said, I've been teaching for 42, 43 years. I stopped teaching, but I do a little bit of teaching part-time. The young people today, you asked me this question and I didn't answer it quite. The young people today, relative to my students 10, 20, certainly 30 or 40 years ago, are more dedicated, more committed, more absolutely certain that they are going to improve the world and heal what has rendered us apart than any generation of students I've ever come across. And that makes me so optimistic. And I feel it constantly, every time I'm with them. That's number one. Number two, I look at history. We are now in the second Gilded Age. The first Gilded Age ran from around 1890 through, let's say, the 1920s. That first Gilded Age ended in a big reaction, a big kind of, the country snapped back. It was called the Progressive Era. And why did that happen? Because people like you, Michael, showed America what was actually truthfully occurring. When the gap between the ideal and the reality gets too large in this country, time and again, we reform. We move for reform. We do it. We've done it again and again and again. So that's my historical optimism. And thirdly, I'm optimistic because of what I suggested to you. I've traveled around this country and talked to many, many, many Republicans and Trump voters. And there's an essential decency in all of them. I mentioned that one of my best friends was Alan Simpson. Alan Simpson and I saw eye to eye on nothing, literally or or philosophically. And yet, I still have a wonderful place in my heart. There are many people like him.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that this country is far better than our current leaders. What else can I tell you?
Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Reich.
That was a killer. Thank you.